All right, thank you guys again for joining for today's session. This is going to be part 4 to my top 5, and today we're going to look at actually Python. Now, I know this is not per se a compiled tool like the others in my top 5, but it is one of those things that's in my top 5 types of tools that I use in every pen test and everything that I do. And, for me personally, when I started to learn Python, it was, I guess, about 10 years or so ago when I actually decided to start moving from Perl to Python, because I used to kind of do everything with Perl to get, any types of tasks like that I need to get done. But I didn't start with Hello World. I didn't start with Python in 30 days or Intro to Python. Didn't do any of that. I actually went to a website. It was pythonforbeginners.com if you're interested in going and checking out the stuff there. And, one of the things that I knew a lot about already was pen testing and security stuff. So I said, well, let me think of something that I can do a project. So I decided to write a basic port scanner, or see if anyone had any tutorials or instructions on writing a basic port scanner in Python. And the reason I chose that is because I know a lot about how port scanners work. So I ended up going to, how to pythonforbeginners.com, and there was a code snippet on there for writing a port scanner, and that has inspired the port scanner that we're going to write today. So I'm going to have you, I'm going to write the port scanner, and I encourage you to actually take and pause the video and write it with me. Go ahead and dive right into it. Don't worry about what syntax is better, what language is better for this and that, and all the other things that you hear people tell you about programming languages. Write this port scanner. Let's just get this one thing done, get it done, and then you can go back and study syntax and study why the indents matter and all of that stuff in the language. But part of the challenge for me when I started to learn coding, which was C for me, was I would try to write some of these little basic examples and nothing would work, and I would be frustrated and I would just stop. And then I would come back months later and finish that first little project that did some like number manipulation thing. And all that frustration, all that trouble, and all I can do is manipulate a few numbers. So I started off with a different approach, which is let's actually do something. Let's make something that's actually useful, because at least after I put many hours into it, I got something out of the end of it that's functional. So what is Python? It's a very popular and powerful scripting language, likely the most popular scripting language in cybersecurity. And it's used for automation, data manipulation, and building of different types of tools. Now, why is it in my top 5? As I said, it's easy to use, it's powerful. It was my first scripting language after Perl when I started to kind of leave Perl behind. I still use Perl for some things, but I have gravitated towards Python for a lot of cybersecurity tasks. So we're going to write a port scanner, a very basic port scanner. Learn how Nmap and stuff like that works. Learn, and then look at your writing of this one and kind of, get yourself some understanding of what's going on. So let's jump right on it. All right, so we are here at my terminal, and I'm going to go ahead and write this script now. And I want you to do it with me, so I'm just going to do it in gedit. If you're using Kali, you can apt-get and install gedit or download it. We're just going to call this keatronscan.py. And again, you can look at the original site for the inspiration for this. It was pythonforbeginners.com. He's got the whole script basically laid out. And it's slightly different in mine, but it's mostly the same thing. So first thing I'm going to do is import some modules here. And the way I want you to think about modules is these modules are like dictionaries or libraries of functions. So in order for me to be able to do certain things, I'm importing these modules which have all these functions. And this is just basically keeping me from having to write these functions from scratch. Now we could do that, but there's no need when there's already modules that have these. And this would be the equivalent to like doing like include headers and things like that if you're writing C or C# or something like that, right? So we're bringing that in. Next, we're going to clear the screen just in case there's something there. All right, so now we're going to do this sub process call here to actually do what we're said in the comments, which is clear the screen. And again, just in case somebody's completely new to this, because I fully intend that some of you have never coded anything before, and that's why I'm doing it kind of at this level. So anytime you see the pound symbol there, that means we're putting comments in. That's not going to be executed by the actual running of the code. So now we're going to request input. We're going to request the scanner to ask us what we want to scan. Okay. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to use remote server. And again, just trying to get this code dropped for you so you have it in a video that you can go back and look at again. So we're going to say enter a target to scan. That's what's going to print on the screen for the person running the script. All right. And now we're going to do a declaration here. Now this is, basically kind of intro to socket programming, right? So we're actually, anytime you see in the world of programming or networking the word socket, you should be thinking about opening a connection to a port, on a device or something like that. So when you see socket or SOC, you know that it's talking about some type of network communication. And again, not trying to make this a Python course or anything like that. Whoops. So we're now going to print a banner. About what we're going to scan here. So in Python, one way that we can make stuff come or show up on the screen or make stuff hit the screen is just using print. Now, if we were using Ruby, it'd be, we could use puts or there's a couple other ways. But generally, these key things or these key functions are the stuff that you want to learn first. All right. So it's just going to say, please wait while I scan the target for you. All right. So now, let's see here. We do want to actually put up here what we're scanning. So that's going to be remote server IP, because that's how we actually open a socket or we connect to something. All right, so next we want to, grab the current date and time. Because we're going to have the script tell us how long it took for the scanner to run. And in order to do that, we need to know what the time is that it started and then what the time is that it ended, right? And then we subtract those and we know how long it took the scanner to run. So we're going to get the current date and time. Now we're going to use the range function to specify a group of ports, because I don't want this to scan all ports. So we're just going to scan the group, because if we scan all ports, it would take a while. And when you write your script, you can actually absolutely write it to scan all. And there will be some use cases where we do need to scan all ports. So we'll do some basic error handling here. And basically what that is when something happens, or when something we control C or the script stops running, we want to have a way to deal with that situation, right? You don't want to leave it just the script to just hang. So we're telling it, if something happens, this is what you do. So we're going to do a for loop to define our range here, and we're going to let's just do 5,000 ports. So we're going to say 1 through 5,000. Right. So now we're going to call our socket here. Now, the way I'm using AF INET because we're only worried about IPv4. Like I have, talking about IPv6 is a little bit outside of the scope. We're not trying to account for every possible scenario here. Just again, get you up and running to where you're writing something. And in this case, just a basic port scanner so that you can take that interest and grow with it. Because that's another issue I had in the beginning is I just couldn't get interested in writing, spending hours writing a piece of code that basically has me to calculate how many calories are in, the McDonald's I ate for lunch or something like that. That stuff just didn't interest me. But what did was, writing a port scanner. And I did that and eventually used that code base to write a bunch of other things related to scanning and enumeration on networks. All right, so this is where we're actually doing the connection to whatever IPs we enter or whatever targets we enter when the script runs. Okay, that's what's going on here. So we're going to do this conditional here with the if, and that is two question marks there. It just gedit kind of just formats it that way. It makes it look like just one long double line there, but it's actually two equal signs. So if you're looking at this, don't try to just draw two underlines on top of each other or something like that. So now we want to see what happens, or we want it to tell us what happened. For example, let's just say the script doesn't run or it's unable to connect or something like that. We have to handle that. So we're going to spend the next little part after this section to do with that. All right. So we're going to do port. And don't worry about trying to know what all these brackets mean right now. Just kind of do it this way. And then when you start learning actual Python, learning the language per se, you can go back and dig into all the meanings, because again, that was a mistake I made earlier, is trying to learn all this syntax. And it's like, nope, I just want to know the syntax to do this very specific thing right now. And then later, I came back and filled in my knowledge when I wanted to do more complex things, right? So you also have to close that socket. We opened it, so we have to close it. And we just did that. Now next, let's deal with some errors. We're talking about exceptions here. So the way we do that in Python is we just do except. Let's deal with, someone hitting Control C first. That's going to be essentially, we just want it to say on the screen, hey, you hit Control plus C. Just something that's verbose enough to tell the user what happened, right? Like you hit Control C, so I stopped. Like we just want to say that. All right. So then of course exit. All right. So let's say, for example, that the script or the machine is unable to connect to the port, or no, actually, let's just do if it can't connect to the URL or the IP first. So we'll do that with a socket error handling message here. We'll do GIA error. So if it can't connect to the actual IP address or host name, we're just going to have it say on the screen, host. Come on. I'm dealing with a new keyboard here today too, by the way. And it's not very friendly. I don't like this curved stuff here. So host name or host, let's just say, could not be reached or resolved. And then, it lets us know it's exiting. All right. So again, we have to, exit, or give it the system instruction to exit if we're going to exit after we give that exception. All right, next we're going to deal with, if the port's closed, like we can't connect to that port or something like that. And in that particular case, we wanted to say, let's just say couldn't connect to server on the specified port, or something like that. All right, so we exit out of that. And then now we want the script to tell us how long it took to run. So like we will, check the current time again. And you don't have to put these comments in, you do that to kind of tell yourself later what you were thinking at the time. It also helps other people that are looking at your code or trying to use your code know what is going on and what your thought process was. So now we need to calculate or total the difference between the beginning and end of the run, the script run. So you can use total in Python for that. So we're just going to say total equals the current time, which is T2 that we just declared up here, minus T1, which is the time that we set as the current date and time up here, right? So that's what we're doing. So that's just it. We don't really need to do much else. Now, since we got that time, we can just kind of tell it how to use that value. So we can say, let's just do, come on, keyboard, print the total info and other info to the screen. So we can do that just by saying print however many seconds or whatever we want to say there, and that's just going to be whatever total is, right? Because it's going to be the result of subtracting the current time from what the current time was when it started. So that's what that actually would look like there. All right. Now, the things you want to look out for is make sure you have like your colons, and this is just basic syntactical things that you run into, and you will see, even doesn't matter how long you've been coding, you will find yourself forgetting to do things sometimes. Like you will find it, you've tried to run your code, it doesn't work. You go back and look at it and it ends up being something, very basic like that, right? Like I always forget to do things, especially when I'm trying to teach it or going fast or not really paying attention like we're doing now. So we're going to go ahead and save this, all right? And mine is named Keatron scan.py. So now we can try to run that in Python. And we just need to give it a target to scan. All right, so we're going to go ahead and run this against a machine that I have on my network here. So the thing is you want to make sure that you have permission to be scanning, because even though this is a port scanner you wrote, you can still get in trouble with it. So let's see if I got any errors in my scanner here. So let's run it. So it says, hey, there's something wrong with line 15. And I kind of wanted this to happen. I want to show you that when you get these errors, it's usually not anything it's that big to fix. So let's go back in and see what it's talking about. It says line 15. All right, and if we go down to line 15, it's right here. So it says, hey, something is wrong, with the remote server IP line here. All right, what it is I forgot to put a comma here, right? So I just need to put that there, like so, and save that. And let's try to run it again. So save, we're gonna run it once more. And then it says there's an error on line 40. So let's go look at line 40. Now, again, I want you to be okay with having errors. Like this is, now normally, again, if I were focused, I probably wouldn't be making as many errors. But if we look at line 40, you know, one thing that jumps out at me right away there that I forgot to do was I forgot my, my colon, which is what I told you guys not to forget earlier. So the fact that I missed that is going to make this error every single time. So we'll go ahead and save that. And we'll run it again. And part of, what my goal is here is to humanize this stuff and let you know that you don't have to be like a coding ninja or anything like that to do this basic stuff. So let's try it again. And then it asked me for the target to scan. So let's go ahead and put our target in. It's going to be 186, I believe. And so you see it goes ahead, it scans 186. It says, please wait while I scan the target for you. Gives me the target. It's scanning all the ports on that target. It's showing me the ones that are open. And then it finishes and says, hey, this scan completed in approximately 11.0333 seconds. So look at, guys, that's a basic, very basic port scanner. And I want you to question things. I want you to ask yourself, okay, so how would I make it scan multiple IPs? What would I need to change in here for that? Why did you use this to open a socket? What does that mean? What's sock stream? These are things that you look up or we find out as we learn the language. But the goal here was just to get you to make something that does something. And then you can just take just this one script, and there's a whole lot of learning that you can do just around this script. Because when I found it on pythonforbeginners.com and I wrote it and then started to slowly modify it into my own thing, it turned into one of my most used scripts. And what I might do with this is just kind of grow this into a Python series. And I'll show you how I grew this basic script into something that I use almost in every single pen test, because I started adding functionality to it, adding output options to it, and different things like that. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully this will get you out of that fear of trying to learn a language. Go ahead and jump right into it. Don't worry about reading 50 books again on what language you should learn first. You got Python. It's on almost every Linux distro. If you got Kali, it's by default there. Open it up, start with it, write this thing, get it to work, pat yourself on the back, and then start to dive into the language. See you in the next video.